Because too much of us don't get hugged, man. Like, look at all the hate. Like, should we talk about your situation earlier?
But they also have like
walk
women.
and stand, and then people just come aggressively attacking you.
The
Like,
thing
it's
is,
crazy.
too, like, he literally did like 4 U-turns to get to us.
And then he was hitting on us, and then when we didn't respond, he was like, "Oh, you're catching attitude." I'm like, "Yeah, kind of."
Like, with who, the wind?
So viewers and listeners that don't know what we're talking about, on the journey here to the studio, these lovely ladies were approached by some Torontonians, some aggressive ones, just for being themselves. They didn't do anything. They didn't bother nobody. They were just showing up at the building. And some dudes decided to think that they were catching an attitude because it's frigid weather outside. What is it, -10?
Yeah.
And because they weren't so communicative and talkative, they must have been giving attitude. The Screwface City, right? Oh my gosh.
Worst approach that a guy's ever had towards you? Both of y'all.
Ooh, you go first.
So I've had like a couple of really golden ones that live rent free. I'm like, these ones are something else. So probably today, that was probably one of that gets a spot in the top 5.
On such a cold night, like, what are you supposed to be saying out there? Like,
yeah, but then also I had someone hit me up on Instagram in the DMs being like, "Oh, I met you once at Oasis. I was there with some girl," and I'm like, "Oh, that's super cool."
I totally don't remember you, but yeah.
Yeah, and I try to be nice. I have a terrible memory, so I don't remember everyone, but I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. Like, thanks for following me." But then he was like, "Oh, because I met you once, do you want to like come have a threesome with me and my 2 friends and help us do some like cuckold fantasy thing?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "But I met you once." And I'm like,
Oh,
"Of
wow.
course you met me once, so obviously I
So
would
you're just
love."
down. Oh no!
Now
It must have
inclined
been the
to
night down to fuck. It must have been that night
Yeah.
at Oasis where he's like, "I met her there because I was there too."
Yeah.
Right. So because I saw you, I should expect you to want to do all the things
Absolutely.
that I want you to do.
I was like, you know
100%.
what? After thinking about it, like during a pandemic, I would love to come have sex with 3 random guys that I met one time on Instagram.
at a place I no
Absolutely.
longer am affiliated with. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely would love that. Yeah, how about you?
When we used to work in Pickering, this guy came up to me and he's like, he was a regular at the club, and he was one of those guys that would just catcall everybody so loud over the music and made everybody so uncomfortable because he never spent any money. He just sat there in the corner all day and made everybody like feel super awkward. Everybody avoided him at all costs. And like also understand that like it's kind of hard to make some people feel awkward,
Catcall?
especially
Like,
me.
why are you doing
And he like walked up to me one day and I hate it. He goes, "You look like my daughter. Do you want to come home with me?" And I was like,
Oh my gosh.
First of all, I think you need to reevaluate some things with yourself. And second of all,
That ain't it.
that's not it ever. I don't know what you were expecting me to say. I could have gone without knowing that second part. You could have just said, "Hey, do you want to come home with me?" But I don't know why you felt the need to tell me that I reminded you of your daughter.
That's just really twisted. I mean, come on.
It was just like, okay, so sorry. Let me go. It's my time to go home for the night.
My Uber's here. I gotta go.
Literally.
Yeah.
I got one more club question.
Yeah.
And I think I asked this a few weeks ago with, who was it? Miss Lady Ice. Okay. So there's a thing where if a guy pays to get like a lap dance or something like that in the club, it's automatic that he won't be able to date that girl later. Is that true or is that false?
I think it kind of depends on the girl, but like majority times you're not going to be able to date her. Like, I'm sure she'll give you the girlfriend experience if that's what you're looking for, but it's just I think that there's very much something when it comes to customer kind of relationship that it's just, and don't get me wrong, I've met a lot of friends from the club while I'm working, but it's just, there's this kind of awkwardness because I wouldn't ever give a boyfriend like a lap dance the way that I would at work, because it's like you're performing at that point. It's not really, for me personally, I just can't make the connection between the two, and I don't think I ever would be able to. But there are some girls that would probably do it. But for me personally, I'm gonna go with no.
It's interesting because there's things that, again, when you're on camera and you're doing, it's the performative eye that you're using, right? There's a
Exactly.
lens. So when you're there trying to please, you're putting effort, you're focusing on the point of view, you're focusing on all these things that you want to be, captured in the camera. But that aura, again, that real experience is what we were talking about in the first part about, COVID creating those barriers. When you have a real experience with somebody that you're now emotionally and mentally connected to, it's completely different.
For sure.
See, I'm on the other hand where I've actually kind of become friends with some of the people that have bought my porn in like a strange turn of events.
Yeah.
Like I had a follower like 3 years ago buy me a pair of stripper shoes that I really, really wanted. And then, 3 years later, we're friends. This person has my phone number. We've hung out with our group of friends.
I think that's more realistic than the actual
exactly.
dating or that real thing. Because
Yeah.
in order to get to that level, you have to connect emotionally with somebody.
Yeah.
And that's one of the hardest things that people in general in life suffer with is the human connection. Because we can be around people, we can be in the presence of people, we can engage, but to connect mentally and emotionally to lead to a more organic, intimate experience requires a bigger connection than just we're chilling and stuff. Talking to people is like pretty easy once you really like dumb it down and you're just being social.
Yeah.
So I can see the friendship part being organic and just like anybody, like we all have fans, right? And the whole point is to make it like not really a girlfriend experience, but to make it a social experience.
Right.
So I think that is realistic and easier than the whole dating thing. Because a lot of people do meet people in promiscuous environments and real stuff can happen. And
Well, it's funny because Lady Ice, she said the opposite. She said, she would do that because she's been in clubs where they're like, the guys are super lit. And she's like, well, fuck, there's basketball players in here or whatever. So like, hell yeah, let's go. You know what I'm saying?
No,
That's
that
fair.
makes 100% sense.
She didn't say that in those words, but I'm paraphrasing.
yeah, but
Badly.
it's about mood though, because like for instance, if you're an entertainer and you do your skill and you're doing it well, depending on how the person that you're entertaining is and how they vibe with you and how you vibe with them, you might give a little bit extra. You might do a little bit more. And again, attraction is something that is based on that immediate eye contact, right? So if you are somebody who's really good at doing what you do, for instance, she's a dancer. She dances for all types of people, male, female, whatever. But if somebody somebody catches her gaze, right? Because she's always in a gaze.
Yeah.
But when you flip the script now and you start now having your own gaze and you're now focusing on somebody out there, then your attention and how you perform changes.
For sure.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I think it also depends on what I know it's stupid to say kind of because in reality you're working for whoever when you're at the club, but I think a lot of different types of dancers have different types of demographics. Like for me personally, majority of my customers are like older men that I would never even like hang out with, you know what I mean? And that's nothing against them, but I think for me personally, that's just who I find spends the most money on me because everybody does have their own taste at the end of the day. But I mean, like I said, and like you guys are saying, if there's somebody that you feel that you can be in a social aspect with and like hang out as friends and something like that. And if somebody does catch my gaze, I find that I try to like almost refrain from giving them the same experience that I would give a regular customer.
Right. And especially when you do start dating somebody that meets you in the promiscuous form that like you're in at any point in time, whether you're a dancer or an adult star or whatever the case is, the energy changes because when you're dating, it's not like you're always performing. It just becomes a regular, natural experience of dating. You don't have to keep, doing the most exotic things or explicit things with that partner. It just becomes like a regular thing. Like, I just think that that's organic.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you have to perform at a club or you're, having sex or, doing really good oral, like the partner you end up with is not always going to put that expectation and demand that you have to do all those things.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So there's a fantasy and then there's a reality. And a lot of people don't know, like when you're in promiscuous environments or you're an entertainer, how you actually have your reality. Because your relationships are not always like your performances.
I even think some people think I just hang out in lingerie like all the time.
Yeah.
Like you came outside today and
Yeah,
This is just for the show.
Yeah.
absolutely.
We
I
were
just wanted to make
forced
sure
to
we were
put these
YouTube
on.
friendly.
She changed for the show.
Yeah, but in reality, like you can ask Bria, she'll vouch for this. I wear sweats and hoodies like 98% of the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh,
Same here.
I have to take a sexy pic. Okay.
I've
And then
never
back
seen
in the
you
hoodies
in
and
like.
sweats.
Well, I seen you at Oasis, and you were really always in like lingerie or yeah, little stuff.
But secretly,
yeah.
it's sweats all the time.
Wow.
Well, then
Yeah.
especially when it's your job to look good, when it's your time off, you're gonna look like the farthest thing.
I don't want to
because-
look good for free.
Yeah.
Like if we're dating and you love me, you're gonna have to understand that I don't want to look good for free.
Well, that person gets the good pussy that you said you have. right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why would they complain about you wearing some extra loads of clothing? Because when it's time to come off, you take it off.
You see how Bria has not complained about my about my choice of dress?
And you guys are twinning today. I like it. You guys are both wearing turtlenecks and denim and
Love
boots.
it.
Aww. I'm just painting the pictures for our
Couples.
audience members that are listening to this great podcast. If you want to see what they look like and what they're wearing, go watch
Subscribe
on YouTube
to the YouTube.
Hey.
Yes.
and watch. Yes, because we know there's so many voyeurs out here that love our great show, right? I watch from a distance. So